Hello and welcome to Georgia Postgame Live here on the Georgia Voice of College Football. I'm your host, Matt Green. I appreciate everyone tuning in live and everyone who's joining us this week. Please like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. And wow, folks, the Georgia Bulldogs are SEC champions. Wow, just what a game, what a season it has been for the Georgia Bulldogs. And I can't even describe like what I was thinking post game. I guess I have to describe. That's why you're tuning in. You want me to describe what I was thinking post game for this. This is our instant reaction show, and man, it's late here on a Saturday night, and all the games are final. All the college football playoff stuff that should be sorted out. There's one final decision to be made, but one decision that doesn't have to be made that Georgia Bulldogs fans do not have to worry about is where the committee is going to seed them. They don't have to worry, oh, what is this third SEC loss? What does this third loss do to Georgia's seed with Ohio State or Tennessee? Like, you don't have to worry about any of that. The Georgia Bulldogs won the SEC. They're going to be the 2 seed in the college football playoff, and they're going to get that much needed bye week because, man, this team I feel like has just gone through it. This team has just been battle tested like no other team in college football. Like it's really just incredible. Like I think a lot of those narratives and things like that are overrated of, oh, they find ways to win, but man, maybe I'm buying into it now. Like there's something about the championship mindset, like the heart of a champion, like the will of a champion. And this team, it's got a lot of guys that were freshmen and sophomores on national championship winning teams in 2021 and 2022. Like this team there's something about it. They just find ways to win ball games. Like it's very impressive what this team, for all of their flaws throughout the season, it's really incredible that we're sitting here talking about the 2024 Georgia Bulldogs being SEC champions. Final score. Where's my fancy graphic here to put up on the screen? Oh man, it's somewhere here. There we go. Final score. Georgia 22, Texas 19 in overtime. First SEC championship of all time to go to overtime. Just leave it to the Georgia Bulldogs. We can't make this stuff easy, right? I want to say that Rose Bowl was like the first Rose Bowl to ever go to overtime. Then the national championship versus Bama was like the first national championship to go to overtime, or at least in the college football playoff. Yeah, first college football playoff, because I know not Michigan, Ohio State, Miami, that 02 Fiesta Bowl, that one went to overtime with the controversial call against the Hurricanes in that one. But yeah, first SEC championship to ever go to overtime. It was a lot of fun, a lot more fun than 8 overtimes with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets a week ago. That game was just a roller coaster of emotions. This one was a similar roller coaster, except for the fact that you didn't get down 17-0. Like, it was another game that, like, in the first half, this Georgia offense just did nothing. I'm not looking at the stats in front of me, but I think you saw it at halftime. It was like 240 to 50 total yards or something at halftime. Texas was just dominating between the 20s, but Georgia was able to force some field goals. They were Burt Auburn, he missed a field goal. Georgia also forced some turnovers. And so you were sitting there at 6-3 at the end of the first half before that Hail Mary, and you're thinking, being down 3-0 with what you've done in the first half, like, we'll take it. And especially, I mean, I'm conditioned now with this team this year that, like, oh, we're not down 2 touchdowns at halftime. Oh, we're winning this game. Like, Georgia's been a second half team all season long, and then you get Carson Beck get injured on the Hail Mary, and that just changes everything. And now you're just thinking, oh my God, this offense has already not done anything in the first half. And now you're bringing in Gunnar Stockton off the bench, who has played 0 meaningful snaps in his entire career at Georgia. And not to mention, with how many close games Georgia's had this year, he hasn't gotten any real, like, garbage time reps this year either. So it was to see Gunnar Stockton getting his first meaningful snaps in the SEC championship, and the first drive he's in, Georgia goes 10 plays, 75 yards, and scores a touchdown. And Gunnar Stockton goes 12 of 16 for 71 yards and an interception in this one. Man, this guy, I think, did all you could ask him for. Takes an absolute ferocious hit, gets his helmet knocked off in overtime. Like, I don't know if this guy's concussed or what, but man, he took a absolute shot, held on to the football. Like, that's something that a lot of Georgia ball carriers couldn't say today. 4 fumbles, I want to say. Where's the stats? I have the stats pulled up here. Georgia fumbled the ball 4 times today and only lost one of them. Like, just really incredible stuff. And man, I don't know what we'd be saying if Texas somehow returns that Carson Beck Hail Mary, that sack, and somehow returns it for a touchdown on the final play of the half. That was, I don't know what I would have done if that would have happened, but luckily we're not dealing with that. Right now we're talking about the Georgia Bulldogs being the 2024 SEC champions. And I'm as shocked as anybody. I said going into the SEC championship, I still don't know who's good. I had Matthew Miller on the show to talk Texas from our Texas Voice of College Football site and the SEC site. We had him on, and I'm saying I don't know who in the SEC is good after 12 games. And I watched Georgia play another 2 quarters in this one, and I still wasn't sure. Right? We're sitting at 6-3. Like, I don't even know. So Georgia they come back in the second half with Gunnar Stockton playing quarterback. Just an absolute gritty performance from Gunnar Stockton. Like, man, I can't say enough about Gunnar Stockton, what he was able to do off the bench in this game. Just a massive performance for Stockton. Kirby Smart, now his 3rd SEC championship in his time at Georgia. Just incredible. 7th, he's now 3-4 in SEC title games. Also, Georgia still hasn't lost in the red jersey since 2020. So I think we all love those white jerseys. It seemed like that 2017 season, we had a lot of the Rose Bowl, the Notre Dame, a lot of great moments in those white jerseys. You haven't seen Georgia lose many games in these red jerseys. 2020 cocktail party, last time Georgia lost wearing red. And it seems like, man, I don't know what it is. I think I sold Georgia short. I think I said Georgia was 5-1 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium against teams not named Alabama, right? Against Alabama, Georgia has not had a lot of success in Atlanta, but against everyone else, Georgia's 5-1. Or I said Georgia was 5-1. I was leaving out the Cincinnati Peach Bowl as well as the Ohio State Peach Bowl. So that was 7-1. Georgia's actually now 8-1 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium against teams not named Alabama. What are they? At least 1, 2, 3, 2021, 20, I think 0-4 versus Alabama in that stadium. So not ideal, but we're not talking Alabama right now. We will get into Alabama and SMU and what the playoff committee decides to do when we get into the college football playoff rankings and the implications and the aftermath of what we saw here on Saturday. But man, just what a great day of college football in general. Like, it's not as loaded as most days. Here's my thing. The SEC championship, man, it still feels really good. But in the 4-team model, it just feels so much bigger. In the 4-team model, what we're sitting at, Oregon, oh, man, this would have been a great 4-team playoff year. I'll save it. We're not talking playoff right now. I'll save my playoff takes. We'll talk playoff later. We're still talking Georgia, Texas. So, like I said, Kirby with his 3rd SEC title in his 9 years at the University of Georgia. And what is it about the Texas Longhorns that just brings out the old school identity that is Georgia football? Like, this team we've been watching all season, they're giving up 135 yards a game on the ground. Since giving up, I think, 29 on the ground to Texas in that first win, they've been giving up 175 yards on the ground. So it was like the first half of the season, the Clemson defensive performance was dominant. But after that, it was like we hadn't seen a dominant performance defensively from this team until that Texas game. And when we saw Georgia play Texas in that first game, it was like, okay, this is Georgia football. We're playing Georgia football now. Like we're getting after the quarterback. What do they have? 7 sacks in this game or in that first game? We're able to run the ball. Like, okay, we're turning over a leaf. They never turned over the leaf. That was just the one outlier. The Texas game was like, damn, Georgia brought it defensively that week, and then just really didn't bring it for most of the other games this entire season. Well, I don't know what it is about the Texas Longhorns. Maybe it's Steve Sarkisian's offense and Kirby Smart's got the upper hand there. I don't know, but Georgia's defense, I should say, in this game, 6 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, forced 3 turnovers in this game, like just 13 sacks in the two games against Texas this season. Just absolutely disrupted Quinn Ewers in this game. Like Georgia was just constantly, it felt like either Texas was getting these chunk plays of 15, 20 yards, or Georgia was getting negative plays. That felt like all of the plays. And so even when Texas was moving the ball a little bit, Georgia was able to force enough negative plays to get them, in those like 3rd and 20s and 3rd and 15s. I mean, they were converted one of those 3rd and 14s early in the game, but just Georgia was just able to force a lot of negative plays. I think that's what I'm just most impressed with this team this year, because this defense has not. I was saying last week, and I'm glad the defense brought it for sure, but I felt like this defense had gotten a pass at times. Like every time Georgia had gotten off to a slow start, it's what's wrong with Carson Beck? What's wrong with Mike Bobo? And we're not looking at the fact that, oh, well, the offense has 7 points at halftime, but they've also the opponent has had the ball for 75% of the first half. There had been so many games where Georgia's defense just wasn't able to get off the field, and teams are just, Georgia's having these games with 3 possessions, 4 possessions in an entire half, and the offense just wasn't able to get enough going. And obviously we've seen the drops week in and week out, and we saw, more drops in this one that derailed the offense at times. But from the defense's performance as well as the run game, like all of a sudden when Georgia's playing Texas, like they're playing old school football and they can pound the rock. Trevor Etienne in this one, 16 carries for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games against the Texas Longhorns. Etienne's got 35 carries for 181 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like this dude, and man, you just have to love this guy. I know he used to be a Gator. He's a full-blooded Bulldog at this point, folks. He just, the way he talks about this team, and apparently he addressed the team saying like this is why he came to Georgia, was to play in games like this. Like he was questionable on the injury report, and it's like this dude brought it. He's been Georgia's best offensive player, I think, consistently this entire season. He's had his injuries and missed the last couple games, but damn, this dude has been everything he was advertised to be and more since he came over from Florida in the transfer portal. Like his numbers aren't gonna blow you away by any means. He's had his injury issues, and I think a lot of it's just been this offensive line. Yeah, 95 carries, 477 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Excuse me, coming into the game. Like, so now he's sitting on what, close to 600 yards on the season. Like nothing impressive, but it was like when you look at like the Kentucky game early in the season, he had like 80 yards rushing, like 5 yards a carry or something like that, maybe even less. But if you actually, that's the stats. But if you watch the games, you're like, holy, this guy's making 4 guys miss on every 4-yard run he has. Like he was just, he's been so special. And also in the pass game, what did Etienne had 5 catches for 28 yards in this game? Like he's brought it the most when they've needed it the most. And speaking of that Kentucky game, like that's what this Georgia defense has been this year. It's, while the defense, like I was saying, the defense has underperformed at times, when the offense has needed it the most, in the games where Georgia's offense has not shown up, man, this defense has been incredible. Like just just so impressive what they were able to do in this game. Wisner for Texas ended up they had 31 rushing yards on the game. Wisner with 19 carries for 51 yards, almost identical, I think, to what he had the first time these teams met. What was it? I got it pulled up here. Yeah, almost identical. They had 29 yards rushing. They had 31 in this one, and Wisner had 15 for 52. And in this one, they had 19 for 51. So even fewer yards per carry in this one. But man, this defense, they have given up so many yards on the ground in recent weeks. And to see this performance where they just absolutely stuffed Texas's run game up front, like that was just incredible to me. Like Quinn Ewers obviously threw for over 350 yards, but he also threw 2 picks. And Dalen Everett, speaking of, that's the other thing. Something about the Texas game, it brings out Georgia's defense, it brings out Georgia's run game, and it brings out Dalen Everett's best games, without a doubt. Dalen Everett, the MVP of the SEC championship. I guess they only give out one. It's on an offensive and defensive. If it's offensive and defensive, it's easily ETN and Dalen Everett. But Dalen Everett wins MVP of the SEC championship. And man, this dude, the sack, forced fumble recovery against Texas in the first game, as well as the interception. And in this one, he has the 2 interceptions on Quinn Ewers. And man, in terms of just the game flow and how things were going in that game, I mean, when was that second interception? So that second interception comes with 3:36 to go in the game on the 28-yard line. Georgia's got the ball on the 28-yard line. First down, up 3.5 minutes left. And Gunnar Stockton, for as well as he played in this one, and I think he was throwing this pass away, but man, the 3rd and 13, Gunnar Stockton throws the interception, and this thing was damn near a pick 6 and would just have been, I don't even know, a program-changing play for the Texas Longhorns. Like, I think it was Lawson Lucky that made the tackle. And wow, are we having a different conversation if Texas returns that for a touchdown? But that is not what happened. Luckily, Georgia gets the tackle. Texas puts together the 47-yard drive and gets the field goal to tie the game with 18 seconds left. Man, and then this one goes to overtime. And then for I almost called him Brock Vandegrift. Shout out to the Kentucky Wildcats. For Gunnar Stockton to take that hit when he did, and then Carson Beck comes back into the game. I guess Carson Beck can't even feel the ball, can't throw, can't grip the ball. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward for Georgia. I assume if Beck is healthy, he plays, but shoot, I don't know what happens, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But so 1st and goal from the 4. Everyone in the world knows Georgia's running the ball right here, and Trevor Etienne right up the gut. Touchdown. Georgia wins. Georgia wins the SEC championship. It was just a gutty performance. And like, that's really the best way I can describe it, because I say it jokingly. Obviously, I know this team is a good team. You don't go 11-2 and win the SEC championship and you're not a good team. And they've played the toughest schedule in all of college football. But you've seen just so many frustrating things from this team at times, and still they find ways to win games. Also, can we shout out? I don't know if it's Kirby. I guess Kirby Smart ultimately is the one who makes this call. I don't know if it's Kirby Smart, if it's Mike Bobo, but the fake punt on their own 30-yard line, like the absolute kahunas it took for Kirby Smart to call the fake punt. The little Mike, I don't know, what is Bobo's name? I'm blanking on Mike Bobo's. Is it Drew Bobo, I want to say? I've never seen that type of fake punt. The little snap to the center, and then a little shovel pass to Arian Smith. I mean, just what an absolute massive call to make at that point in the game. I mean, that ends up being a 16 play, 72-yard drive, 9 minutes and 22 seconds of the fourth quarter that gave up. Georgia has 13-10 remaining in the fourth quarter when they get the ball back, get the field goal with 4:32 left in the game. So just incredible. Like it took for Carson Beck to get hurt when he did and Gunnar Stockton to come in. Like that and completely changed the game plan for what Georgia had to do and for how Georgia had to win this game. And they were able to do it. I mean, 141 yards on 37 carries. Like that doesn't sound great, but the two running backs, ETN 16 for 94, 5.9 yards a carry. Nate Frazier 6 for 47, 7.8 yards a carry. And ETN's 48-yard run in the third quarter, like that was just a sign of life that we haven't seen from this offense. Like we haven't seen almost any explosive runs out of this team just all season. Those have been so few and far between. So to get this running game when you don't have Carson Beck, when you're not just giving the keys to Gunnar Stockton and just say, hey, go win this game for us. It was like, okay, what do we trust Gunnar to do? How are we going to win this game with him only doing the things we trust him to do? And that's what it took. It was going to take being able to run the football, and that's exactly what Georgia did. So, man, for them to pull this off the way they did, and the defense to bring the energy, to bring the juice the way they did, another game where Georgia just maybe didn't bring their best game, but they found a way to win, like I said. And Nick Saban said this stat on College Game Day this morning, because Georgia's lost 4 games. Am I correct? We've lost 2 this year, 1 in 2021, 4 games Georgia's lost in the last 4 years, and they've lost the turnover battle every single time in those 4 games. And they were able to win the turnover battle in this one. And I thought that was just that was just massive. So just give Kirby Smart just so much credit for just finding a way to win this game. Like that fake punt, I can't say enough, especially with Kirby Smart's history of fake punts in the fourth quarter in the SEC championship. And this guy said, no, this is the call right here. We're going to roll the dice. And it took some of that aggressiveness. And you saw the fourth down they went for. Was that the first drive that Stockton was in the game for? I want to say no, I'm thinking I think I'm misremembering that. 4th and 2. Okay, so Georgia did end up going. Yeah, it was the second drive, that field goal drive. Georgia went for it, 4th and 3 from the Texas 8, and Cash Jones picked up 4 yards. Like Kirby Smart, they were being really aggressive. As aggressive as they could be with the backup quarterback that you didn't necessarily trust, right? So you just had to respect the way Georgia, it was going to take a certain type of way to win this game, and they won in that exact type of way. Like, I think this offense has gotten a lot of blame throughout the season. And one of the stats I said coming into this game, like Texas coming into this game was averaging 28.5 points a game against SEC competition, not to mention averaging 16 points a game against the only ranked teams they played so far, and 19 in this, 16 in regulation in this one as well. So they scored 17 against Texas A&M, and they scored 15 the first time against Georgia, and now 16 in regulation, but 19 ultimately in the final score against Georgia. So like they never cracked 20 points against a ranked opponent. I mean, I think Texas dropped out of the rankings. So they literally are going to get to the playoff without a win over a ranked opponent. They averaged 28.5 points a game against SEC competition this year. Georgia averaged 28 points a game, a half point less with the toughest schedule in all of college football. when you look at those rankings in the SEC and you see Ole Miss and you see Alabama and you see Tennessee to go along with Georgia and Texas. Georgia played all of those teams. Texas only played Georgia, and it was one of their worst performances of the season. And this was probably up there with one of their worst performances of the season. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think with the way Georgia was able to just control the line of scrimmage for the second straight time against Texas, that was just massive. I felt like, I don't know if Michael Williams lost some weight or something. That dude was moving different. Michael Williams, that was one of the more disruptive games I've seen. And you saw that the first time that Georgia played Texas. I don't know what it is about the Longhorns, but it brings out the best in Michael Williams and Jalen Walker and Dalen Everett, and Raylan Wilson. You saw Georgia just making a lot of those just good, fundamentally sound plays that we're used to seeing under Kirby Smart coach teams. That's just one of the most encouraging factors of this game. It's the offense wasn't moving the way it was, but because the way you wanted it to, but because the defense was playing the way they were, you were still able to win this game. And the offense, I lost my train of thought there, but in terms of the second half of my thought of Georgia averaged 28 points a game against SEC competition this year. Texas had 4. Well, I should say, let me say that the other way around. Start over. Georgia had 8 games of 30 plus points against Power 4 competition this year. Texas had 4. And Georgia did that while playing the toughest schedule in all of college football. So the fact that the offense had gotten so much of the blame for so many of the struggles, and they'd brought it. 8 games, they're scoring 30 points. Every time they didn't bring it, the defense brought it. And that's why I say this all the time. Everyone loves to say, oh, we haven't played our complete game yet. We haven't seen our most complete game. We haven't seen the best of what this team can be. Well, yeah, sometimes you don't see that because you're not a complete team. If you're not a complete team, yeah, you're going to have a lot of incomplete games because that's who you are. Georgia is one of those few teams, I guess to this point, we still have not seen them play a complete game, but we've seen them look so elite at times on both sides of the ball. And we've seen them do so many things so well that you're still hoping for it. You can still see it somehow coming. And now you see them run the ball the way they have in this game. It's okay, if you can run the ball like this, while Carson Beck is doing his thing, and obviously we don't know what the health of Carson Beck is moving forward. This offense is a whole lot different. If you're leading the nation in drops and you're 15th in the SEC and rush offense, the quarterback was the only thing that was keeping this offense afloat. If you're able to run the ball like this against a defense like Texas, because that's the other thing too. While they dominated on the scoreboard against Texas in the first go round, the offense was hardly doing anything. The offense was scoring. What was a 12-yard touchdown drive after the Dalen Everett strip sack fumble. It was a 30-yard touchdown drive. It was a couple of field goals that you started in Texas territory. And so the Texas defense played a really good game the first time around, but Georgia's defense was just getting those havoc plays and creating short fields for their offense. In this game, Georgia was having to drive the length of the field. They were. And I mean, one of the times that they did, off both interceptions, Georgia didn't get any points. So it was such an impressive performance, I felt like, from this team. My biggest takeaways, I would say, one was that I would say this was the best defensive performance Georgia gave all year, except for part 1 versus Texas was the best that we've seen. That we've seen all year. But man, the 2 performances against Texas were without a doubt Georgia's 2 best performances of the season. Kirby Smart, that's the first takeaway. Kirby Smart and his fake punt, just getting this team that starts slow. You find a way to win with the backup quarterback. This is just such an impressive performance. I felt like one of Kirby's better coaching jobs this season in general. And I love him throwing shade at Greg Sankey for Georgia's just brutal schedule where they played at home versus Auburn on, I want to say October 10th. Let me see. Let me pull this up. Georgia plays at home versus Auburn on October 5th. Oh, and then Mississippi State on October 12th. Then the next home game on November 16th versus Tennessee. Play multiple top 5, top 10 teams on the road. Just an absolute gauntlet that Georgia had. And they found a way somehow to still go 10-2, now 11-2, and they are SEC champions. Wow, just an incredible performance. And to piggyback off of that, the next takeaway, Gunnar Stockton's performance in this game, it was nothing incredible, but it was exactly what Georgia needed. They just needed a guy to come in there and just keep this offense moving the ball down the field. He had a few completions, he had a couple runs for first downs, just doing exactly what was needed to just get the most out of this offense. And to come in cold, hasn't played a meaningful snap in his Georgia career, and to come in SEC championship down 6-3 at halftime, not enough can be said about Gunnar Stockton. Maybe he's the guy next season. Maybe he's the guy in the playoffs if Carson Beck isn't able to go. But that's a whole nother story. Maybe you can prepare different when you're the guy, but I don't know how I feel if Gunnar Stockton is the guy for the playoffs. We got to try to win a national championship with, but this performance tonight, just legendary stuff. And Georgia was due this. Can we say that they had to take the Georgia fans down memory lane, right? During that SEC championship broadcast. We remember, you don't have to remind us of the 2017 national championship when Tua comes in for Jalen Hurts. You don't have to remind us of the 2018 SEC championship where they flipped the script and Hurts comes in for Tua. But so we deserve this. We have Beck go down and Gunnar Stockton come in and just, find a way to win this game. And the last point, the biggest takeaway is, man, Trevor Etienne, just an absolute dude, best player on this Georgia offense. And he was the exact guy that Georgia needed to take this offense to the next level. If we would have had this guy being healthy all year with Nate Frazier's emergence, I feel like this run game could be good. And who knows, it could be good in the playoff. Maybe this is the performance they needed to get some confidence and start running the ball a little better. And maybe it is Gunnar Stockton, and maybe his legs, his element of running the ball, maybe that throws the defenses off. Maybe that creates different running lanes for Frazier and for Etienne. Maybe that is what this team needs, because I've said this before. There's a lot of teams to win a national championship. Right, especially right now, there's a lot of teams that can win a national championship. This is a more wide open field than we've seen maybe ever. And obviously we're going to 12 teams, so we clearly have more teams that are capable of winning a national championship here in the first week of December than we've ever had before. But also just the caliber of teams. It feels like there's just a lot of teams that are on a similar level. And that's what it's going to take. For a lot of teams, it's going to take doing something they haven't necessarily done all season, right? Georgia, it's been drops. It's been not running the ball great. It's been getting run on. And there's a chance, from what you just saw what they did against Texas, that they can do those things in a 12-team playoff and do it all the way to a national championship, right? So we know they have a whole lot of talent. We know how they recruit on this offensive line, and for whatever reason, they just haven't been dominant for most of the season. This was a big time performance from Georgia's offensive line, and I'm interested to see what this does to the college football playoff rankings. Okay, so let's get into that. The other to go around the other games that happened on the night. The other college football scores, some absolute amazing games we had this week. Oregon beats Penn State 45-37. Clemson beats SMU 34-31. Down 17 in the fourth quarter. SMU comes back, ties the game, and then Clemson with that kick return to set them up. And then they get the 55-yard field goal with no time left to win the ACC. I personally, I made a big deal. I've made a big deal all week about the loser of SMU losing the conference championship. They should still be in regardless. Like, there's just no way you can justify to me that right now through 12 weeks or through 12 games, SMU, you, the committee, say SMU is better than Indiana or Alabama, right? But then they play an extra game while those two teams sit at home. And now all of a sudden SMU is not better than Indiana or Alabama. I just have a really hard time with that precedent that would set. And we're sitting at 21 zip, 24-7. Was it 31-7? Let me pull this box score up. Was it 31-7 at one point in this game? Let me see here, folks. Scoring summary. They were sitting at 31-14. Okay. So it was 24-7. They had it at 31-14. And when you're sitting at 24-7, I'm like, okay, this Clemson team wasn't that good this year, and they are absolutely dominating SMU. Okay, if they're gonna dominate SMU, maybe Alabama does deserve that final playoff spot, right? Then SMU comes roaring back, ties it at 31. And I feel like this was just the exact scenario that, like, I don't think you can keep SMU for out of the college football playoff for losing a second game on the season, one game with the current starting quarterback. The committee cares about that, right? Jordan Travis, they left him out because of the starting quarterback was. Like, Jennings was not the quarterback when they lost to BYU. Now he is, and they've only lost one time. They lose by a 55-yard field goal. That's the one loss this team has in conference play this entire season. I just think this was the perfect scenario for SMU to lose and still get in the college football playoff. So this is what I think is going to happen in the rankings we're going to see tomorrow. So let me start by this. Let me start by saying this. This is what I was going to get into earlier. This would be a perfect year for a 4-team college football playoff. I know the 12-team playoff is going to be a lot of fun. It's more college football. We love college football. It's going to be cool, right? Like, you're not going to like dunk on me after the fact and be like, oh, you didn't want this? Oh, Ohio State, Tennessee, one of the greatest games you've ever seen. Oh, you didn't want this? Like, okay, I know it's going to be fun, but honestly, no, I don't. Ohio State, Tennessee, yeah, let's see them in the Sugar Bowl. We don't really need to see those teams playing for a national championship. Like, both 2 losses, like, there's nothing really, like, in a normal year of college football, those teams don't really deserve a national championship. But you just look how this worked out. Oregon being number 1, Georgia being number 2, probably Notre Dame 3, and then the one loss, oh shoot, SMU did change things. SMU winning would have made it clean. And SMU, one-loss ACC champion, gets that 4 seed. Now I don't know what you do. I guess you maybe did I just contradict my entire point that I didn't know who that 4th team was? So you got Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, and then maybe some controversy for that 4th spot. Who do you put in? You put in Texas, Notre Dame. I don't know. Or I already said Notre Dame. Texas or Tennessee, I guess, gets that final spot. I don't know. Maybe put Boise State in, make them feel good. You want to give them a top 4 seed. I don't know. I'm not pro Boise State getting a top 4 seed by any means, but that's all I'll say. That, as cool as that SEC championship was today, like, I think that's what this new rankings format kind of took away from us, was that SEC championship meaning everything. Like, overtime to go to the Final Four, like, that's just an incredible thing. Now it's like, wow, Georgia won this game. Maybe Georgia and Texas play again in a month. Really? That's what we're gonna do? We're gonna maybe see Georgia and Texas for a 3rd time. I don't know. It could happen. It couldn't happen. But you know, what happens, I should say. But I think this is how it's gonna turn out in tomorrow's rankings. Well, I should say I'm doing tomorrow's seedings. So I think you're gonna have Oregon as the 1 seed, you're gonna have Georgia as the 2 seed, Boise State as the 3, and Arizona State as the 4. So I think that's going to be uh the 4 teams that get the first round buys, with the other conference champion being Clemson. So I think the 5 seed, I think that Texas will get that 5 seed. And that's the whole decision. It's either does Texas play SMU or does Texas play Alabama? And you could convince me both ways, I guess, because Alabama, Texas didn't play this season, and damn, that would be a whole lot of fun. But I'm team SMU here. 3-loss Alabama, keep them out of here. I think SMU deserves that final playoff spot. So I think you're going to see Texas at the 5 playing either SMU or Alabama. You're going to see Penn State as the 6 playing the 11 seed Clemson, and then you're going to see Notre Dame as the 7 to play number 10 Indiana, and then Ohio State Tennessee in that 8-9 game. So that would mean Texas and let's say SMU, to simplify things, would play Arizona State in the second round. Penn State and Clemson would be playing to play Boise State in the second round. And then Notre Dame and Indiana would be playing for the right to play the Georgia Bulldogs. And then Ohio State and Tennessee would be playing to match up with the number 1 overall seed Oregon in the second round. So this is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of controversy, however they decide to do it. But man, was this a game? This has been one of the most fun Georgia Bulldog seasons I can remember, to be honest. I think that's what you've seen in some recent years, the SEC East being down and Georgia having a couple of lackluster schedules. Like a lot was made in 2022 of Georgia's schedule being weak, and then near the end, it gets a little bit tougher, and you have let me see here, 2022, that was when you had Tennessee come, but I think there was another one other than Tennessee. No, Tennessee was really the only Oregon was decent in the season opener, but Tennessee was like that one like huge game at home you got when they were the number 1 team in the rankings, and Georgia took them out. Like there just wasn't a strong schedule. And then in 2023, just a lot was made about Georgia's schedule, which actually turned out to be better down the stretch with Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee down the stretch that year. But this year, man, oh man, it was just like at Alabama, Auburn, at Texas, Florida, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and then you had the Georgia Tech game was an absolute marathon, and the Kentucky game was just a battle of attrition. Like, this team has just been so battle tested, and part of that's their fault, right? Part of it's because they haven't beaten those weaker teams on their schedule. They've played to the level of competition at times, but man, it's just been, this team has just had a grit about them, and they were 3-9 against the spread coming into the season, or coming into this game, like one of the worst in FBS against the spread. But they weren't the favorite again today, just like they weren't the first time these two teams played in Austin, and they found a way to win. So just an incredible performance from this Georgia team. They are SEC champions for the 3rd time since Kirby Smart took over. 5th SEC championship win overall in the SEC championship game, I should say. Reese Davis was thrown out. I don't remember the stat he said. I think Georgia has the most losses in the SEC championship. I think it was like 4-7 or something like that coming into this game. But man, another win for Kirby Smart. It seems like every time the people start to kind of doubt Kirby Smart and wonder what this team is made of, they just absolutely flip the script on everyone. So maybe it wasn't as universal, I would say, in this one in terms of most people picking Texas. It felt like not only was everyone picking Texas in the first game, but everyone was picking Texas as the new best program in the SEC. And it wasn't just about that game on October whatever that was, October 19th. It was about like this is Texas changing the guard in the SEC. And so Georgia stopped it there back in October, and then we had a rematch for it all on the line, and Georgia was able to really prevent a solid narrative of Texas coming into the SEC year one and getting the SEC championship. We're built different. It just means more down the SEC. Not like the Big Ten. You can just stroll into the Big Ten out there from the West Coast and win that year one. You can just stroll into the Big 12 from the West Coast, win that conference year one. Not the SEC and ACC. Clemson, they said they had to hold on to the guard for the traditional ACC powers, and I felt like Georgia had to do the same. So I don't think we as a society, as a proper society, as a proper as a proper Southeastern Conference, we didn't want to live with Texas winning this conference year one, and Georgia was able to prevent that, and Georgia was able to get it done. So not the easiest win, not the sexiest win, but man, Georgia, what a gritty performance. This team just finds ways to win. When it's either Carson Beck throwing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns like he did against Georgia Tech, or this defense getting just after Quinn Ewers the entire game. And you saw probably a little bit less of Arch Manning than I think a lot of people expected to see. You saw a really cool little gadget play they ran there with the snap through Arch Manning's legs for the 4th down conversion to direct snap to the running back. But you really just saw him come in on a couple short yardage. You didn't really see him get a series. I think that's what a lot of people were kind of speculating. Like, do we see just a package for Arch to come in the game and kind of change the pace? Like, I wonder if that's what they needed, because they were showing whatever Quinn Ewers had going on his ankle, like, that man's a statue. And I think Georgia, when Georgia doesn't have to worry about the quarterback's athleticism, I think you can really see just them get after the quarterback. So 13 sacks on the season. I don't have Georgia's stats right in front of me, but I think half of Georgia's sacks on the season have to be against Texas, and probably half of their interceptions on the season. All of Dalen Everett's interceptions on the season, all 3 of them came against the Texas Longhorns. So I don't know what it is about Texas. I hope we see part 3 of these teams, because I think if I'm correct and Georgia's the 2 seed and Texas is the 5 seed, it would be the national championship if we see these 2 teams face off again. And the fact that Texas seems to bring out the best, most physical version of Georgia, I wouldn't mind seeing that one more time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate everyone that tuned in here live for our instant reaction to the SEC championship. The Georgia Bulldogs, I can't say it enough, like, won the damn SEC championship. Like, they are SEC champions. Like I've said so many times on here, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but leave the nation in drops. 15th in the conference in rush offense, and a decently good, not great for most of the season defense. And we're finding this team, 11-2 winning the SEC. It's so unexpected. The SEC has really just been so up for grabs this year. It's been a crazy season, so much parity in all of college football this year. And I am glad, with all of that parity, that Georgia escapes the first round of the playoff, because that first round of the playoff, oh man, it is going to be treacherous. And I hope those games that I said, I hope we get some of those. We'll see. Maybe we get Indiana, maybe we get Clemson, Tennessee going on the road and getting a win. It's going to be really tough. I think that's one of the best parts about college football. Maybe the best part about college football is the home atmospheres and just the home playoff games, I'm so excited to see that. That's just something awesome that the NFL has always done. Like, you got to go into the frozen tundra of Green Bay in December, in January, and it's something different about doing that, and that's what you're gonna see. I would love to see the second round also be home atmospheres like that. That round of 8 also, I think that's what we're gonna do. For one, this seeding is not going to last. Like, so many people have talked about how bad these automatic buys are. Like, that's the automatic qualifiers I'm cool with. The automatic buys, like, they're going to do away with that. We're going to get an improved seeding system. And then I think what's really going to happen is everyone is going to see how awesome these home playoff games are. And these programs that are the 1 through 4 seeds are going to be like, we're the best teams in college football and we don't get that. Austin gets a huge weekend. Happy Valley. Happy Valley is the nickname. State College, Pennsylvania. State College, Pennsylvania gets this massive game with national media and everything coming into their city. College football playoff game. The top 4 teams are gonna be like, oh, we want that too. So I think we're gonna see eventually only the final 4 in national championship at neutral sites. But those first 2 rounds, I'm hoping we see even more home playoff games because home atmospheres in college football, like that's what ultimately separates college football from the NFL, and I'm here for it. All right, so I appreciate everyone for tuning in for our instant reaction show here on the Georgia Voice of College Football. Once again, I'm your host, Matt Green. Thank you for everyone who's watching live, everyone who's commenting in the live chat. It's we appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We come here to you every Tuesday night at 8:00, as well as every post game on Saturdays. And I guess we'll have to get a little programming update to the people with Georgia being off next weekend, and obviously have the bye, which I think puts them playing. Let me see here before I leave the folks here. The first games are on. You got that one game on Friday the 20th, and then the 3 games on Saturday the 21st. And then you have the Fiesta, Peach, Rose, and Sugar Bowl. So I think it's obvious that Oregon will be in the Rose Bowl on January 1st at 5 p.m. So that should put Georgia in the Peach Bowl at 1 p.m. on January 1st. And then you have the Fiesta Bowl at 7:30 on the 31st. So that Fiesta Bowl, that's got to be Arizona State. I would assume they're going to be all over the Fiesta Bowl, and then the Sugar Bowl likely. I guess if Notre Dame has their choice, I guess Notre Dame would choose the Sugar Bowl over the Fiesta Bowl. I guess I'm not 100% sure as far as that goes, but so Georgia's next game likely January 1st. So that's going to be a big one, Wednesday. So we will talk to you multiple times before then. But like I said, thank you everyone for tuning in to this live. Georgia Bulldogs, SEC champions. And that's all I have for you, folks. Go Dogs.